The moon of was a silent world, covered in silver dust and old ruins that whispered when the cold wind passed through broken stones. For centuries, no living soul had dared to step on its surface. Travelers avoided it, explorers feared it, and legends warned that anyone who entered its lonely valleys would never return. The reason was simple and terrifying. An alien woman lived there, a being wrapped in a dangerous aura of shifting light. People called her of the veil, the untouchable woman. Looked human from a distance, tall, graceful, with long hair made of luminous strands. But the moment anyone walked too close, her body released a blinding field of energy. It was not anger. It was not a weapon she wanted. It was a curse she never learned to control. The aura reacted to fear, heat, noise, and even sudden movement. Entire research teams had turned to dust trying to understand her. Empires had tried to capture her, but left the moon forever in fear of the glowing woman who could not be touched. Lived quietly in the ruins, listening to her own footsteps echo against stone walls. She had no voice in the world, no companion to hold, and no hope to escape her sad fate. Every night she would sit on a broken balcony overlooking the cold plains and watch the stars drift across the sky. Somewhere out there were people laughing, families growing, children learning new things. She had only silence. Her heart had learned loneliness the way stone learns wind, slowly, painfully, and permanently. One morning, a violent explosion shook the valley. Looked up sharply. A starship came crashing through the thin clouds, flames rolling off its tail. It spun wildly, clipping the old towers before slamming into the ground with a roar that shook the ancient city. Dust rose like a giant wave. Pieces of metal rained down. Felt her aura flare in shock, but she forced herself to breathe slowly until the light settled. She had not seen a living being in many years. She feared what her aura might do, yet she felt a strange ache in her chest, something old and forgotten. Curiosity, fear, hope. Against her better judgment, she walked toward the crash site. Her glowing steps left soft trails on the ground. Smoke rose from the broken hull. The ship was torn open, wires exposed like metal veins. Something moved inside. A human. He crawled out slowly, coughing hard, one hand pressing against a bleeding cut on his forehead. His suit was torn, his visor cracked, his breathing heavy. He looked lost, hurt, and exhausted, but he was alive. Stopped several meters away. Her aura hummed. The light around her shifted nervously, warning her to stay back. She had spent so long alone that even her own energy feared others. The human looked up, his vision blurry. His eyes widened when he saw her shining form standing in the dust. But instead of screaming, instead of running, he gave a tired, shaky smile. "Hi," he said. "Please don't zap me. I already had a morning full of problems." Froze. No one had ever spoken to her like that, calm, gentle, almost teasing. Most people saw her as a storm waiting to kill. This man saw her as someone who could understand him. She did not know how to reply. She only stared, her glow flickering softly like an uncertain flame. The human struggled to his feet, swaying a little. "My name is Elias," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just need somewhere safe to sit before I fall over." His voice trembled, but his eyes held trust. It felt impossible, unreal, undeserved. Felt something shift inside her aura. It softened, lowered, like a shield tired of being angry. For the first time in her long life, her energy did not strike someone who came too close. It simply hovered around her in quiet surprise. Elias blinked. "You're beautiful," he whispered, more amazed than afraid. His heart trembled. No one had ever spoken to her with such warmth. And in that small moment, on a moon forgotten by the galaxy, the untouchable woman realized something unbelievable. A human had looked at her. Not with fear, but with hope. After the crash, the silver dust settled slowly over the ruined valley, remained at the edge of the wreckage, her glowing aura flickering like a hesitant flame. She had spent centuries alone, and the thought of someone standing so close without fear made her chest ache in ways she did not understand. Elias staggered forward, leaning against the jagged hull of his ship. He looked tired, hurt, and somehow unshakably calm. Studied him, wondering if his courage was foolish, or if he simply did not realize the danger he faced. I can't stay here," Elias said quietly, touching a broken panel on the ship as if it were a friend. "I have to repair my ship, or I'll be stuck on this moon forever." Blinked, her aura dimming slightly. Most beings ran when they saw her glow. They screamed, shouted, or froze in terror. Elias, however, seemed entirely human in his reactions. He didn't scream, didn't panic. He simply treated the world as if it might still be good. That alone was enough to unsettle her. "You should not approach me," she said softly. Her voice was melodic, fragile, and foreign, like wind brushing against glass. "I cannot control my energy. You could die." Elias raised a hand gently, not to touch her, only to gesture in peace. "I've already been through worse," he said, "and I think I can survive this." Her aura flickered nervously, testing him, and for the first time in a long time she felt something she had not felt in centuries: trust. Carefully she lowered herself to sit on a broken piece of wall. It was an ancient balcony, cracked with age, but high enough to watch the endless plains of dust below. Elias followed cautiously, sitting on a nearby rock. He didn't come too close, respecting the invisible barrier between them, but his presence filled the space in a way nothing else had for her in centuries. For a long time they sat in silence, observed his hands, calloused and dirty from the crash, marveling at how fragile yet enduring they seemed. Elias looked up at the strange sky above the moon, then back at her and smiled faintly. "You've been alone here a long time," he said. "I can tell. I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone had to live like this." His glow pulsed softly at his words. No one had ever acknowledged her loneliness. She had been treated like a weapon, a storm, a being too dangerous to approach, but never a person. The sound of someone numbing her pain made her chest tighten with something close to relief, or perhaps hope. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she simply nodded. "I'll repair my ship," Elias continued, "but I don't have to leave right away. If it's all right, I'd like to stay nearby for now. I don't want to run away from you." He hesitated, unsure if he should explain. "I don't know why, but I think I want to know you." Her aura trembled around him, not violently, not defensively, but like wind over calm water. She had never felt anyone approach her so gently. Most beings brought fear or hunger, but Elias brought something else: curiosity, patience, quiet courage, and strangely warmth. She took a hesitant breath. "I have not spoken to anyone for centuries, not in the way you speak. Most fled or died when they came close." "And yet here I am," Elias said, shrugging as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "I didn't run, I didn't scream, I just want to understand." The words struck her deeply. For centuries she had thought she was untouchable, destined to exist only in isolation. Yet in that moment she realized that perhaps isolation was not her fate. Perhaps it was only her fear that had kept her alone. She watched Elias carefully, studying his calm face, and felt her aura settle into a gentle hum instead of the usual storm. For the first time, she imagined what it would be like to exist with someone near her, without hurting them. To speak freely, to laugh, to share a simple meal, to watch a sunset together, even on this lonely, ruined moon. And in that quiet, silver-dusted valley, something fragile yet powerful began to bloom, a connection between two very different beings. One of them had been alone for centuries. The other had survived against impossible odds. Together they sat beneath the twin moons, sharing a silence that spoke louder than words, their hearts slowly beginning to reach toward each other. Days passed slowly on the quiet moon. Watched Elias move among the wreckage, his hands steady despite cuts and bruises. He worked tirelessly to repair the ship, hammering and welding, speaking quietly to himself when he thought she wasn't listening. Felt a strange pull toward his persistence. No one had ever cared about surviving on her moon except herself. And now, she was curious about this human who refused to leave, even when it would have been safer. One afternoon, as twin suns lowered and cast long shadows over the ruins, felt a sudden weakness. Her aura flickered violently, sparks of blue and white lightning dancing uncontrollably across her skin. She stumbled, her legs shaking. For centuries, she had never lost control so suddenly. Panic rose like fire in her chest. Anyone too close would be burned. Anyone too close might die. Elias noticed immediately. His eyes widened, but he did not run. Instead, he rushed toward her, stopping a few careful meters away. "What's happening?" he shouted over the crackle of energy. His voice was calm, steady, filled with genuine concern. "I'm not going anywhere, but you have to trust me." "Stay back," she warned, her voice trembling. "If my aura touches you, you'll—" "I know," he interrupted, raising his hands without moving closer. "But I'm not afraid." Something in those words made her heart hesitate. For centuries, people had screamed in terror, their fear feeding the violent power she could not control. Elias was different. He didn't scream. He didn't flinch. He only stayed, his eyes steady on hers, his voice full of calm certainty. That was new. That was dangerous in a way she did not understand. She had never let anyone see this side of her. The aura crackled and flared around her like a storm, yet it seemed to bend away from him, as if sensing his courage. Stumbled forward, unable to hold herself upright, and Elias instinctively caught her. Their bodies were close, yet she expected pain. Nothing came. No fire, no lightning, no burning sensation. Only warmth, a strange, grounding warmth that made her knees weaken further. "You should be ashes," she whispered, her voice trembling. Her chest heaved with fear and disbelief. I can't, how?" Elias held her gently, careful not to push too close, careful to match her movements. "I don't know," he admitted softly, "but I think maybe you don't have to push everyone away. Not me, not anymore." Her aura slowly dimmed from a violent storm to a soft, shimmering glow, the energy settling around them like a fragile bubble. She stared into his eyes, searching for lies, for weakness, for fear, and found none. Instead, she found patience, understanding, and something she could not name but felt deep in her chest. Hours passed in silence, remained in his arms, shaking, her energy slowly stabilizing. She felt raw and vulnerable, a sensation she had buried for centuries beneath layers of power and isolation. Elias did not speak much, he only held her, whispering small reassurances when she gasped or trembled. His presence was not suffocating, not controlling. It was steady, gentle, safe. In that stillness, realized a truth that frightened her almost as much as it comforted her. She could exist beside someone without destroying them. She could exist beside him. Eventually sat up slightly, leaning against his chest. Her aura was now soft and faint, a gentle halo instead of a raging storm. I do not understand," she admitted, voice quiet and fragile. "I have hurt everyone who came near me. I am not meant for closeness." Elias smiled, brushing a glowing strand of her hair from her face. "Maybe that's not true anymore," he said softly. "Maybe you just needed someone who wouldn't be afraid. Someone who sees you not as a weapon, not as a storm, but as you." For the first time in centuries, felt the warmth of hope, not dangerous, not fleeting, but steady. The thought that she might belong beside someone, rather than apart from everyone, filled her chest in a way that made her dizzy. She had been untouchable all her life, and now, for the first time, someone had chosen to stay. That evening, as the twin moons rose and painted the ruins in silver light, allowed herself a small, quiet smile. She did not yet know what would happen tomorrow or the day after. She did not know if her aura would ever fully calm. But for the first time, she had learned something she had forgotten. Trust could be a choice. And someone, a human who refused to leave, had chosen to trust her. And that choice felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. The quiet of was broken by a distant rumble, a sound unlike anything it heard before. The air vibrated and the ground beneath their feet trembled, stiffened, her glowing aura flaring instinctively. Elias stood beside her, eyes scanning the horizon with a mix of worry and determination. "What is it?" he asked. Did not answer immediately. Her centuries of solitude had taught her to recognize danger long before it arrived. "Hunters," she whispered finally, her voice tight with tension. "They've found me." Elias' brow furrowed. "Hunters." "They are mercenaries," she explained, her gaze hardening. "They chase rare beings like me across the galaxy. They want control. They want power. They will not stop until I am captured or destroyed." In the distance, a sleek black ship broke through the atmosphere, kicking up clouds of silver dust. Its engines roared like a beast awakened. Its aura flared around her body, sparks of blue and white streaking into the air. Elias could feel the heat and energy radiating from her, but he did not move away. Instead, he tightened his stance beside her. "They'll burn everything if they have to," she said quietly. "I cannot let them harm you or anyone else." Elias reached out, careful not to touch her, and placed his hand on the small ridge of broken stone that separated them from the open plain. "Then we face them together," he said. "Whatever comes, I'm not leaving your side." The hunters descended, their weapons glinting in the harsh light of twin suns. They had trained for this moment, but they had never seen their target like this, glowing with an impossible light, standing beside a human who did not flinch. Their leader stepped forward, a tall figure in armored plating. "Step aside," he commanded, voice low and dangerous. "This creature belongs to us. You will not interfere." Elias stepped forward slightly, shielding with his body. "She is not property," he said firmly. "She is not a weapon, she is a person, and I will not let you take her." The hunters laughed, a hollow, cruel sound. "You are just one human," the leader sneered. "Do you really think you can stop us?" His aura pulsed violently, a brilliant wave of light that painted the ruins with streaks of sapphire and white. It was power that could obliterate, a force that had once turned entire squads into ash. But this time she did not strike. She did not unleash her fury. Instead, she shifted her energy, forming a protective barrier around Elias. The hunter's plasma weapons struck the shield, sparks flying, but the energy bent around him like water flowing against a stone. The leader's confidence faltered. "Impossible," he shouted. His soldiers fired again, but every bolt was deflected or dissolved into harmless energy. Control was precise, elegant, almost beautiful, a dance of light and power that no one had ever seen before. Elias watched her, astonished and proud. He saw the being known as Untouchable, feared across the galaxy, channel her strength with care instead of destruction. He realized she had not only chosen to fight, but she had chosen to fight with him in mind, not against anyone. The hunters, unprepared for such resistance, began to retreat. Their leader roared in frustration, signaling his ship to lift off. "We will return," he hissed. "No one defies us." As the last of the mercenaries disappeared into the sky, the ruins fell silent again. Aura dimmed to its usual gentle glow, leaving her exhausted and trembling. Elias rushed forward and steadied her, wrapping an arm around her for support. "You did it," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "You protected me. You didn't hurt anyone, and you controlled it all." His eyes, still glowing faintly, met his. She felt something she had never known, gratitude and perhaps even something stronger. For the first time, she realized that power was not only a weapon, it could be a shield, a protector, a choice made with care. And as she leaned slightly against Elias, her body still trembling from the strain, she understood something far more profound. For centuries, she had lived as a storm no one could touch. But now she had someone who would stand beside her, even against hunters, even against fear itself. The bond between them had grown stronger, forged in trust, courage, and the quiet realization that they were no longer alone. The sky above burned with the fading light of the twin suns as the hunters regrouped. Aura pulsed softly, the gentle glow reflecting in Elias' eyes as he stood beside her. Neither spoke much, words were unnecessary. They could feel the tension in the air, the weight of what was coming. The hunters were persistent and they would return, but no longer felt helpless. Something had changed inside her. The fear that had lived in her body for centuries had softened, replaced by a fierce determination to protect the human who had touched her heart without even trying. The first hunter ship sliced through the clouds, engines roaring like a storm. Blue plasma bolts shot from its hull, aimed at them with deadly precision. Its aura flared instinctively, spinning around her in a vortex of shimmering light. She rose slightly above the ground, hovering with grace that made her look less like a person and more like a celestial being, and her energy bent the incoming fire harmlessly to the sides. Elias watched in awe as she controlled the destructive power she had once struggled to contain. Every motion was deliberate, controlled, not a weapon of indiscriminate death, but a shield of beauty and precision. The hunters began to advance on foot, expecting her to panic or lash out, but remained calm, her glowing form steady and bright. "We protect," she whispered to Elias, her voice soft but resolute. "Not destroy." Elias nodded, understanding without words. He drew a small blaster only as a precaution, staying behind her, ready to help if needed. Plasma bolts clashed against her shield, throwing sparks into the sky. Her aura formed patterns that resembled flowing ribbons, twisting around each soldier, pushing them back without causing harm. The hunters could not believe what they were seeing. Their most dangerous target, the untouchable woman, was not killing them. She was simply bending the universe around her, making her and Elias untouchable. One by one, the soldiers fell back, confusion and fear overtaking their greed. The leader, furious, advanced alone, his weapon raised. "You cannot stop me," he shouted. Aura brightened, the air vibrating with energy. She stepped forward, and for the first time Elias saw her smile, a quiet, confident curve of her lips. She did not strike him with fire, she did not burn him to ash. Instead, her energy formed a gentle barrier, guiding him away, forcing him to retreat. He stumbled back in disbelief, finally retreating into the sky where his ship waited. When the last hunter fled, silence returned to the valley. Dust settled over the ruins like a soft blanket, lowered herself to the ground, exhausted, her aura dimming to a soft, tranquil glow. Elias rushed to her side without hesitation, helping her sit. You did it," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. "You protected me. You didn't hurt anyone, and you controlled all of it." Shook slightly, her glowing strands of hair shimmering in the twilight. "I never knew I could," she admitted. "All my life I only knew destruction, I only knew fear." Her voice was barely audible, but Elias caught every word. "I was a storm no one could reach." And now, her hand, glowing faintly, rested close to his. "I can choose." Elias placed his hand lightly over hers, careful not to overwhelm her energy. "Then choose with me," he said softly. "You don't have to be alone anymore. You don't have to be untouchable." The twin moons rose in the sky, casting silver light over the ruins and bathing them both in quiet magic. Leaned into Elias slightly, feeling a sensation she had never allowed herself before: comfort, safety, belonging. Her aura, once wild and uncontrollable, now hummed softly around them like a protective lullaby. In that moment, amidst ruins, starlight, and fatting smoke, understood something powerful. She had been feared by the galaxy, untouchable and isolated. Yet one human had shown her courage, trust, and patience. And because of that, she could be more than just a weapon. She could be a protector, a friend, someone capable of love and choice. And as Elias held her close, her aura wrapped around them both like starlight, she realized that this quiet human connection, was worth every battle, every fear, every lonely century. The galaxy may have called her untouchable, but now in the arms of the human who believed in her, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt alive. The night on was quiet, almost unreal. Twin moons hung low in the sky, their silver light spilling across the ruined city like gentle silk. The air smelled of burnt metal and dust, but it felt peaceful compared to the chaos that had arrived earlier. Sat on a broken wall, her glowing form dim but steady. Elias knelt beside her, carefully offering water from his small canteen. He did not move too close, but his presence was warm and grounding. "I should not be near you," whispered, her voice barely audible. "My aura, it is still unstable, it could harm you." Elias shook his head, giving her a small smile. "You said that before," he said gently. "But you didn't hurt me then, and you won't now. I trust you. I'm not afraid." Her glow flickered softly, like a candle in a gentle wind. She had lived centuries in fear of harming anyone, of being alone because of her power. And yet, here was a human who had not fled, who had not screamed, who had not tried to control her. He had accepted her, fully and completely, despite all the danger. Slowly leaned back, exhausted from the battles and the long control of her aura. Elias noticed her weakness immediately and moved closer, not too close, but close enough to offer support. "Sit," he said softly. "You need rest." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She let him help her lower to the broken stones, feeling the unusual, grounding weight of another presence beside her. Her aura softened further, wrapping around them both like a protective blanket instead of a storm. Hours passed in gentle silence. The twin moons shifted across the sky, painting their small refuge in soft silver. Elias talked quietly, sharing stories of Earth, of forests filled with wind and rain, of oceans stretching endlessly. Listened, her glowing strands of hair brushing against her shoulders. She had never heard stories so ordinary, so simple, yet they filled her with a strange longing. A longing for life, connection, and a warmth she had only glimpsed once in her earliest memories. At one point she looked up at him, her eyes bright with curiosity and vulnerability. Why do you stay?" she asked. "Most would have run, most would fear me, most would leave." Elias smiled faintly, brushing a hand near her shoulder, careful not to break the soft boundary of her energy. "Because I see you," he said simply. "Not as a weapon, not as a legend or a storm, I see you. And I care about you. That's enough reason." Her glow pulsed gently, warmer this time, almost like breathing. The centuries of fear and solitude seemed to melt, leaving something delicate and fragile in its place. She realized with disbelief that she could rest, that she could allow someone to be near her without destruction, that she could trust. Eventually, exhaustion won. His body sagged slightly and Elias caught her instinctively, adjusting his hold to keep her safe. She leaned into him, head resting on his shoulder, allowing the warmth and steadiness of his presence to calm her completely. Her aura shimmered softly, fading to a gentle, peaceful light. For the first time in centuries, she felt safe enough to sleep in someone's arms. Elias held her carefully, whispering soft words she did not fully understand but felt deep in her chest. He did not speak of danger, battle, or fear. He spoke only of calm, of staying, of quiet trust. His breath slowed, her glowing aura dimmed into soft, star-like specks, and a serene smile touched her lips. In that fragile, beautiful silence, she realized something extraordinary. Power was not the same as loneliness. Strength did not have to isolate her, and the universe, vast and indifferent as it had always seemed, had finally given her a reason to belong. As she slept in Elia's arms, safe and warm for the first time in her long life, understood a profound truth. The galaxy had called her untouchable, but one human's trust and courage had shown her that she could be more than legend. She could be herself, and that was enough. And in the quiet glow of twin moons, the untouchable alien woman finally discovered something more precious than all her power: peace, trust, and the soft, steady heartbeat of someone who chose to stay. The first light of dawn stretched across, painting the ruins in soft gold and silver. Stirred slightly in Elia's arms, blinking slowly as she adjusted to the waking world. Her aura, now calm and gentle, flickered like morning sunlight on glass. For the first time in centuries, she felt something she had long thought impossible. She belonged. Elia's eyes opened and met hers, and a small smile curved his lips. "Morning," he whispered, brushing a glowing strand of her hair from her face. "Sleep well." Nodded, though words felt unnecessary. She felt the warmth of his presence, steady and unwavering, and for the first time she realized that trust could grow into something more, something alive and beautiful. The untouchable woman, the being feared by empires and whispered about in legends, had finally found someone she could be near without fear. The ruins were quiet, almost reverent, as if the moon itself understood the moment. Birds, or perhaps small metallic creatures that had adapted to the alien world, stirred softly in the distance. The wind carried no threat, only the soft song of beginnings. Rose slowly, allowing Elias to help her. She stood beside him, their shoulders brushing, and for a moment she felt taller than the centuries of solitude that had weighed upon her. "I never imagined this," she said softly, her voice trembling with wonder. "I never imagined someone could stay, someone could understand." Elias shook his head gently. "It wasn't about imagining, it was about choosing. And I chose to stay, I chose you." Her aura pulsed, a gentle radiance that seemed to respond to the rhythm of his words. She looked at him fully, really looked, and saw not just courage, but kindness, patience, and a quiet strength that had anchored her when everything else had tried to push her away. She realized that power was not the measure of worth, connection was, choice was, and someone had chosen her. The distant rumble of approaching engines broke the fragile calm, but neither of them flinched. Eyes narrowed, her aura brightening faintly. "The hunters," she whispered. "They will not stop." Elias took her hand, careful not to overwhelm the soft glow of her energy. "Then we will face them, together. Whatever comes, I'm not leaving." For the first time, allowed herself to feel hope without fear. Her aura wrapped around them both, not as a warning but as a shield. She understood now that she was untouchable in one way, but in another she could be reachable. She could allow trust to touch her, to comfort her, to make her stronger without harming anyone. As the hunters approached once more, their ship slicing through the pale sky, and Elias stood side by side. Her aura shone brilliantly, her energy a living testament to her centuries of survival and growth. But this time, it was not only a weapon, it was a promise. A promise that she would fight, but she would protect, and she would do it with someone who saw her as more than power. The first hunter fired, plasma bolts streaking toward them, raised her hand, and the energy bent around them like a river of light. Elias felt the warmth of her aura, steady and strong, filling him with courage he had never known he needed. Together, they were unstoppable, not because they were invincible, but because they had chosen each other. When the battle ended, as it always did with her brilliance and control, the hunters retreated, unable to comprehend a power wielded with love and trust rather than fear. Its glow dimmed to a gentle, golden shimmer as she turned to Elias. "You stayed," she said softly, her voice full of awe. "You really stayed." "I did," he replied, smiling, "and I always will." For the first time, let herself feel something far greater than fear, far greater than solitude. She felt peace, trust, and belonging. The untouchable alien woman, feared and worshipped across galaxies, had finally found someone she could rest with, someone who would never run from her light. And as the twin suns of Rose fully, spilling golden warmth over the ruins, leaned into Elias' arms, her aura wrapped gently around them both, soft and alive. The galaxy may have once called her untouchable, but now she understood something far better. Being touched by love and trust was the most powerful thing in the universe. The untouchable alien woman now slept softly in the arms of a human, and for the first time, she was truly home.